Welcome to another edition of the Gadget Lab Show. I'm Michael Calori.
And I am Roberto Baldwin.
Big news in the e-reader space this week. Amazon has announced that it is sold out of the Kindle Fire.
No more Kindle Fires.
No more Kindle Fire. And there's an Amazon event next week, which means new Kindles.
New Kindles. Definitely get a new Kindle Fire because...
Definitely? You putting money on that?
Money. I'm putting all the money in my pocket, which is about $8 on that assertion. We're also probably going to be getting new Kindle Touches because those have been sold out for about a week or two. It's unavailable, currently unavailable. You can't get a Kindle Touch, which I don't really care because my favorite e-readers don't have touch.
Same here. Same here. I'm using them oftentimes when my thumb has to, like, they're so small, there's not really much of a bezel.
Look at my hand.
Your thumb actually goes on the screen more than you'd think it would before you buy one, a touch device, so I prefer the buttons.
Yes, I do prefer the buttons, and that's one of the problems with the Kindles is the buttons. They move them from the bezel to the edge, which it's awkward to reach those. The Nook, on the other hand, has the buttons on the bezel, and it has a light, which we're expecting from Amazon's offerings next Thursday.
No, this is not a backlight. We should.
They're front lit, and most of them, the ones, probably Amazon will probably have a front lit one as well. Who knows?
Right. Who knows? Not us.
We don't know what they're doing. But you can like push the button forward and back and read it.
And now, cool. And the light turns on and off.
And the light turns on and off. So this is great if you read at night. I read at night before I go to bed. And before all that, Sony reminded everybody that they also have an e-reader. They have the, the PRST2.
It's commonly known as the Sony reader. But we just like making fun of them for their cryptic names they give to absolutely everything.
So this is their new e-reader. It's touch-based. It doesn't have buttons on the bezel or on the side or anything. I guess they figured because it's touch-based, you could just do it with your finger, go to the next page. They also have, the buttons down here instead.
The physical buttons for the people who don't want to live in the future.
Yeah, in case you're afraid you're... So it's a pretty, with the Nook out, which already has a light, and the Kindle being refreshed, probably the entire line, except for maybe the DX, because no one cares about the DX. It's a weird time for Sony to bring this out and it not be like cutting edge. Right. They're kind of playing catch up right now with this.
So you've been using this for about a week.
I have been using it.
What are your impressions of it? You say it's not cutting edge, but
it's it's the screen compared to the Nook and the Kindle. The screen is crisper, but I'm seeing more artifacts So when I go to the next page, I see residual,
like little ghosts.
Yeah, little ghosting, which kind of pulls you out of reading. And when you're reading, you want to be immersed. You just want to read. You don't, want pages that you can see other words on.
Now, if I understand correctly, this has to do with how Sony is implementing garbage collection on the e-ink screen, right?
Yeah, it's
like when they do a page refresh, they can either take everything off and then put everything on and show you a brand new clean page, but that takes longer, right? So they do kind of a quickie, kind of dirty refresh, which seems a lot snappier, but leaves some of those artifacts behind.
Yeah, and the quickness in which a page turn is, it's so minute that if I have to wait a few extra milliseconds, that's fine.
It really bugs some people. Some people
like, oh my
really,
gosh!
Really
but I'm talking about milliseconds. I'm not talking about like it's going to take 4 seconds. This is a problem that I found on the first generation Kindle DX. That's years, I don't know, hundreds of years away in the e-reader world. So it's a little bit disappointing.
Well, I think with these things, even more important than the hardware is the platform that it's tied to. Because, you're buying a piece of technology, but what you're putting onto it has so much more to do with what's available in the store and whether or not you can sideload, is it internet connected, things like that. So in that respect, what's your favorite device?
Okay, hardware-wise?
Hardware-wise.
The Nook is my favorite. The back, it has a little concave, the light, the buttons right here, the best. But ecosystem and what I use, it's the Kindle.
Right.
I am sucked into the Amazon ecosystem. I'm a Prime member. I can share books. I can get books for free. The Amazon ecosystem it's unbelievable and it's unbeatable right now. It seems like.
My dad loves the Nook because they have better library lending in his view.
The Sony does have a pretty sweet library lending system. I haven't had a chance to test it though.
Okay.
That's one more thing. But from what they tell me, it seems pretty sweet compared to these other two.
All
so
right.
if you're a big library nerd, you don't care about buying stuff.
And we should note that you will have a full review on Wired.com of the Sony e-reader after you've tested that and other numerous things coming up in the coming days. And also next week you will be in...
Well, I was going to say Los Angeles, but actually Santa Monica, which is better than LA.
Santa Monica, which
I will
is
be in
better than LA.
Santa Monica Thursday for the live blog. I'll be typing until my little fingers are down to little nubs, telling you everything about the brand new Kindles and maybe, just maybe, an Amazon phone. Not really, probably not.
We're looking forward to that. And coming up next, we have Christina, who's going to give us a few details about what's next in the Apple-Samsung dispute. So Christina's here. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Mike.
You haven't been on the show in a couple of weeks because you've been down in San Jose covering the Apple v. Samsung trial.
Indeed, the patent trial of the century.
Yes, of the millennium. So tell us, give us a very quick update on where it stands right now.
Right. So after 4 weeks of a jury trial, the jury came to a verdict that Samsung was infringing on Apple's design and utility patents. 28 of Samsung's smartphones were found to be infringing, and Apple was seeking a preliminary injunction on 8 of them. But Judge Koh just recently ordered that there's going to be no preliminary injunction. An injunction just means that the products would be banned for sale in the US.
Right.
There's going to be no preliminary injunction, just a final injunction hearing that will be held in December.
So we'll find out in December whether or not they're going to have to actually go pull Samsung products from the shelves.
And the thing is, none of these products are super new. Like, there's like the Samsung Galaxy S2, there's Droid Charge, and a few other older models.
Can you even buy those off the shelf at Best Buy anymore?
Right, I don't, yeah. I mean, by the time December rolls around, there's gonna be like 100 new Samsung models out there anyway, so I don't think it's gonna hurt Samsung too much.
So you got to see most of the proceedings, right?
Yeah,
you
definitely
missed a couple of days,
the most interesting parts.
So tell us some of the cool stuff that you saw. Like, what were your impressions, of the big show?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting things about the case, I thought, was the Apple lawyers versus the Samsung lawyers and how they presented themselves in their case. The Apple lawyers came across as very friendly. They were very practiced. It was almost like they were doing like an Apple media presentation, like when they introduced the iPhone or the iPad. Everything was just practiced to a T. It was very relatable. They broke everything down into very simple terms, so it was super understandable.
Did they have keynote slides?
They did. They had slides. It wasn't quite. It wasn't quite the Apple keynote slides, but they did. They used their slides effectively. So Samsung, on the other hand, they came across as a lot more defensive, kind of abrasive. A lot of the times they were rebutting against what Apple had just said most of the time. And then their whole case is just a lot more complicated. It was about 3G transmission patents than what Apple had to deal with.
What a snoozer.
Yeah, so it was much more complicated for the jurors to try to understand.
All right. So what was the financial award?
So the jurors came to the conclusion that Samsung owes Apple $1.05 billion.
Is the injunction going to have any effect on that dollar amount, or they have to pay it no matter what?
So the dollar amount, that can get, Judge Koh can actually up it by up to 3 times that, because the jurors found that the infringement was willful, so it could go up a whole bunch. And then, of course, Samsung is appealing this, so once they go to the federal courts, they could get it lowered. Right. So it's kind of up in the air. It could be more, it could be less.
So however much money Samsung is going to be forced to pay Apple at the end of this, is the company screwed at this point?
No, I mean, there's so much still up in the air. Like, basically nothing has been decided yet. The amount of money that Samsung owes is going to be fought over for years, and Samsung doesn't have to pay a dime until that's finally finalized. And then the phones that could possibly be banned for sale are old phones anyway, so that's not going to kill Samsung's economic outlook or anything.
Plus, they're a pretty big company. They got a lot of collateral. I bet they could get a pretty solid loan at about 3.25%.
Right, and also they still make chips for the iPhone, so as long as the iPhone's doing well, at least one of Samsung's many branches will continue making money.
All right. Well, either way, your job is not over anytime soon.
Yeah, this is going to go on for years and years.
But the show is coming to an end. That's all the time we have time for this week or something. We'll be back next week. There will probably be some Apple news. There will probably be some Amazon news, and there will probably be some Microsoft news to tell you about. So we will see you then next time on the Gadget Lab.